So he looks at Modi and he says, guess what? What if the President of the United States decides that you're not celebrating Pride Month sufficiently and you haven't flown a rainbow flag at every one of your government buildings? We might just take some of your money. And what if you're not doing the things that we want you to do in Riyadh, in Saudi Arabia? You're not pro-LGBTQ enough. Well, we can't be. It's against our religion. Yeah, well, what if you're not doing the right thing here in Israel, or you're not doing the right thing here? What if we decide to impose our foreign policy and we use the dollar? Wait, are you sure you want to keep all of your country's assets in dollars? Maybe you should bring another currency or two. The BRICS nations are going to have a currency. This is a risk to the dollar. Other nations are targeting our currency. The digital yuan has been created in China. Why? To displace the dollar and to control their people internally. That's the bottom line. The bottom line is the external and internal forces, top down, bottom up. That's the strategy. It is to force at all directions. Now, here it is, China, Russia, an economic friendship that could rattle the world. Look at that, that's this year. And that's in Financial Times. So have I convinced you that other nations are targeting our currency? With reason, but they are targeting our currency. Are you convinced of that? All right, let's go to number 3. Inflation creates a wealth gap that hurts the poor and will lead to destabilization. I may convince you of this, but I think you deep in your heart already know this, that you can't see prices go up 20% in a year or two and expect that you're going to have normal economic times. Okay, so I'm going to ask, does anybody know, just raise your hand if you do, why inflation is created, and as Milton Friedman says, it is exclusively, in the long term, a monetary phenomenon? Do you know why it is? I'll tell you. The definition of inflation from an economic standpoint is when you produce more money than you produce goods. Think about this for a second. Go into an elementary school class and walk in with a box of Hershey bars and say, I'm going to sell these Hershey bars and I'm going to sell them for 25 cents each. You might sell a bunch of them because the Hershey bar is now selling for about $3 at a Quick Trip, right? But what if you walked in and you said, I'm going to give every kid in this room a $100 bill. Every one of you gets a $100 bill, and you're going to have to spend that $100 before class is over. Now I'm offering Hershey bars. Do you know what's going to happen to the price of Hershey bars? Because you only have one box, and now everybody's got a whole lot of money. The price of those Hershey bars is going to go up. They won't pay $3. They might pay $50 or $100. That's what happens when you create more money than you create goods. Guess what we did during COVID? We started sending people money that weren't producing anything, and we stopped production. So we had more money than goods. Too much money chasing too few goods. Well, you think the Federal Reserve would know this, right? So let's ask Jerome Powell and one of his predecessors, Ben Bernanke, and the president of one of the Federal Reserve banks, what they do when they see signs of an economic crisis, what they do. What's their monetary policy approach? Let's listen.
You simply flooded the system with money.
Yes, we did.
So to lend to a bank, we simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account that they have with the Fed. So it's much more akin, although not exactly the same, but it's much more akin to printing money than it is to borrowing.
You've been printing money.
Well, effectively.
Where does it come from? Do you just print it?
We print it digitally. So we, as a central bank, we have the ability to create money.